everyone, welcome back to Geekvolution After Dark. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
Eric, do you have exciting topics to discuss this evening?
I do. But do you know what the most wonderful thing about Tiggers are?
What is the most wonderful thing about Tiggers are is...
I'm the only one.
Has it ever occurred to you that the Tigger laugh is essentially the Frank Gorshin Riddler laugh?
No.
It is about the same thing. And the reason I know that is because I do a decent Frank Gorshin Riddler laugh, and you know that I'll sometimes break into it without meaning to. You notice how you'll say a thing that took you 3 seconds to say, but I'll say the same thing and it took me 10 seconds to say? Anyway, and people will think that I was doing the Tigger laugh. That wasn't the Tigger laugh, that was the Frank Gorshin Riddler laugh, but thank you for playing.
I've discovered that a lot of my go-to jokes and pop culture references almost foundationally are Pooh Bear and Looney Tunes. I reference those two things a lot. I didn't really notice the Looney Tunes thing until when Freddie and Jason they were on that Looney Tunes kick for a while. Where, they just kept watching Looney Tunes.
And Freddie's still on that, but they haven't been watching it.
And I was
recently.
oh, I make a lot of Looney Tunes jokes.
Yeah.
I never really thought about it. And Pooh Bear, not as much, but I also do quite a few Pooh Bear jokes.
Freddie loves Daffy
I'll
Duck.
do think he's my favorite.
He's obsessed with Daffy Duck.
Daffy Duck's the best.
Anyway, Eric, do you have interesting topics in your phone?
I do.
I have
interesting topics in my phone.
I didn't know we were going to do this evening, so I was not as prepared as you. Eric was like, let's do After Dark tonight. We were going to do it tomorrow. Eric was overzealous. He decided, let's do it right the heck now.
Sure.
And so...
Also, I've got friends coming in, so I'm going to try and go to sleep earlier tomorrow.
Yeah, I was trying not to throw you under the bus and let people know that you have an ulterior motive for everything you do.
This will be the first time anyone that's not my family has come and visited me.
Yeah, that's really cool, because you have friends from Florida you never get to see.
I do.
I don't know, that was a little bit
probably
tough.
never will get to see.
Oh.
Unless something financially turns around.
What we'll do is we'll make a drive there, and we won't do it all at the same time, and we won't go at 4 in the morning like I did last time, and we won't hope to God that McDonald's food will save us.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the car trips, which by the way...
I got really sick, and then I ate McDonald's breakfast, and then I was feeling better. Now we're all caught up.
It's been too long since we've taken a car trip, but we've taken car trips before.
And well, do you remember the exchange we had about that a couple weeks ago?
No.
Where I said, Eric, we should go on a road trip. It's been a while, and you said, yes, but first we need a destination.
Yes, I do recall that.
Yeah. All right, I'm putting 1 hour on the clock. Here we go. Is everybody ready?
I'm ready.
Everybody into the pool. Here we go. Eric, as always, as it has become tradition, you strike first. Go ahead, sir.
All right, so I'm going to blindside you with incredibly biting and pressing
real quick,
questions.
I gave Eric this for Christmas.
That's not true.
I gave Eric a shirt that looks like this for Christmas.
That's not true. Jason got this for me.
Oh, okay, all right. I thought you were being so technical that you weren't even... So I got him the wrong size. I was with Jason when he picked out said shirt. It was money from a bank account that my name is on.
But it said from Jason on it.
Okay, so I guess I can't say you're welcome because Jason picked it up. It is a really cool shirt, though, right?
I like it a lot. I really like it.
Isn't it amazing that pink goes well?
It's because
it's so 70s.
I was thinking 80s. It's like a cafe 80s kind of thing.
That begins in the late 70s. That's disco era.
Sure. Okay, so I have a biting...
It's that throwback in the 70s to Art Deco, right?
Yeah.
That's essentially what that is.
Yeah, but we did that a lot in the 80s, too. Like think of a lot of 80s kids show logos.
Certainly. I agree. I'm sorry, I'm so listening.
So I have a biting and prescient and topical question for you. Are motorcycles still cool? Because when I was a
depends
kid,
on who's riding them.
Because when I was a kid, motorcycles were the coolest fucking thing.
Yeah.
60% of why Ghost Rider was popular in the 90s because he rode a motorcycle.
Yeah, that's true. I think you have to already be cool now.
And then ride a motorcycle?
Yeah. That's my instinct.
And I think there's a lot of things that
I don't know if motorcycles make you cool.
Well, and I think we got very aware of the motorcycle cool thing, and we have spent maybe a decade and a half now doing that as a joke. Think about Rogue Demon Hunter Wesley.
Yeah, that's right.
I feel like we've made fun of that enough that, I don't know if...
Because people use the stereotype to try to look cool, and
Like,
then you're not
should-
cool because you can't pull it off.
Like, Ghost Rider should be a slam dunk. He's a flaming skull with a motorcycle, but then I'm like, but is that because I grew up in the 90s?
He's got the leather jacket, he's... Right. How outdated does it get?
Yeah.
Well, that was cool 45 years ago.
Do characters with motorcycles, is that just inherently cool anymore?
That's a really interesting question that I've never given any thought to. And if you think about it, the characters that we're throwing back to with that, some of the people that are watching these characters now, these shows and movies that they're in now, don't even know those characters.
Mm-hmm.
We're throwing back to Evel Knievel when we do that. Who knows who that is anymore?
Yep. Or Rebel without a cause. Like I say, it's a lot of 60s and 70s, like, rebellious
The
films.
Fonz, who was kind of a joke
Yeah.
in the first place, making fun of some of that stuff.
What is that called? Stephen King hates them. The Greasers.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say Hell's Angels, but yeah. Is that even still a thing? They're all in their 70s now, right?
Hell's Angels? I think Hell's Angels still exist, but I'm not sure.
I think so too, but it's sort of like...
I don't think they inducted new members, though, after a certain point.
That's what I was going to say. It's sort of like sci-fi fans of the 60s and 70s, where there are new sci-fi fans, but they've kind of created a clique and they're not letting us in.
Yeah, they're not going back to... Well, yeah, but we're not going back to things like Ringworld or Robert Heinlein. I mean, some of us are, but...
That's fair. That's fair, yeah.
But mostly because
the literature crowd,
because those things lack character. Did you ever try to read Ringworld? It's fucking boring.
I always
I'm
got
excited
that sense
for the
from
Amazon series.
Well, maybe we could imbue some sort of
Because that's what we do with a lot of it. That's why I'm excited for Jonathan Nolan's...
Well, I've heard that's what Man of the High Castle did. Because, I mean, I like that show, but I've never read the book, so I don't know.
I've never read the book. I'm a huge fan of Philip K. Dick, but I've never read the book. No, that's why I'm really excited for Jonathan Nolan's Foundation series. Is I'm like, finally, I can experience Foundation because, oh my god, Foundation.
I have read the first 10 pages of the first book like 3 times.
So boring.
Couldn't get into it.
So yeah, unless you have an answer, that's the end of my topic.
Oh, alright, yeah. I don't immediately have an answer.
I don't think motorcycles are cool anymore.
I don't know anyone with one. And the people I have known with them were always older.
Well, and most people...
Or when I say older, I mean at whatever point I was in my life, they were older than I was. I don't know people my age that have motorcycles. I didn't know anybody in college that owned a motorcycle.
And most people I know or have known that had motorcycles were of the very specific, like, biker type.
Sure.
Like, not what you think of when you think of cool. But I don't even mean in real life. I just mean in fiction, like... When was the last time we created a character that, like, rode a fucking motorcycle?
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right? Because, well, and I was going to say, I've known people that used to own motorcycles, but don't now. Is it okay
My
to
father
say...
owns a motorcycle.
I don't know if people find it cool anymore, but I still tend to immediately, maybe I'm programmed by this way, go, no, that's neat, you have a motorcycle.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And I feel like I have
it's
an
not
actual
practical
inclination
to own one
towards...
where we live.
Yeah.
Because half the year it rains or is...
Well, and I hate motorcycles on the fucking road. Those guys are assholes, weaving in and out.
And you know there are states where that is legal.
It's also legal. There are also states, Florida is one of them, where it's legal to drive down the median. Like that middle line, if it's a 2-lane road, is...
That seems so
not
dangerous.
Not 2-lane road. It's a 4-lane road. You are legally allowed to, like, drive through the car.
Still nowhere where you're allowed to drive on the island, though. I don't think that's ever been okay. No, they mowed yesterday. It's all right. I can get through that.
But yeah, that's why.
No, I'm with you though. That's very interesting. I don't mean to stay on this for too long, but I'm trying to. People ask me questions. I want to answer them. I want to. I want to find the answer. I want to do what you do in fiction. I start exploring the truth through the discussion. I'm not sure.
I think the answer is no.
What was the last movie you saw where a guy was cool and badass because he had a motorcycle that wasn't just throwing back or a period piece? I don't know.
Or adapting from
something else where that person always has a motorcycle.
Yeah, I can't think of anything fresh that has like a motorcycle based.
What would be interesting would be to find out how motorcycle sales are versus what they used to be.
Yeah. Well, and like we're putting out a new Ghost Rider series. I don't think it's going to do well because he sold because he was a flaming skull that drove a motorcycle. I don't think that's cool anymore. I think the flaming skull thing also is not cool anymore, and that bothers me.
Yeah.
Like, all the cool, edgy stuff from the 90s is now so
that
passé.
should be timeless.
It should be.
Fling skulls are fucking cool.
Yeah, I agree.
I think jack-o'-lanterns for a head are fucking cool.
I like
that never gets old.
I like the jack-o'-lantern thing, and I like the just scarecrow aesthetic.
Me too.
Kind of a thing.
Absolutely.
It's one of the reasons Scarecrow's one of my favorite Batman villains. Yeah, but like,
and yet we keep trying to do mummies. I don't think that's interesting anymore.
Yeah, and I heard an interesting discussion once about whether mummies are even relevant, because like when mummies came about, it was we were finding mummies, and like there was like this the big mystery, like in the first Mummy movies, not too long after we actually discovered King Tut's tomb, and there's all the like, are they cursed? You know the tombs.
There's no mystery there anymore.
No, when was the last time we found a fucking mummy that anybody cared about? Like, it's not relevant.
We still find dinosaur bones. We don't find mummies.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we are finding mummies, but nobody cares.
A mummy story.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to give away my twist immediately by telling you this. I just thought of this. It just came to me. If I did a mummy story, I would combine the mummy with the Invisible Man, and you'd think he was invisible the whole time, and he would turn out to be the mummy. That's what I would do.
I have a mummy that appears in my pitch.
Because then you have to ask yourself, which of those is more believable? That's why that's fun. Because it's like, no, what are you, crazy? I'm not invisible. That's impossible. I'm a 2,000-year-old mummy!
It's in my pitch for Kamen Rider on Let's Do It Again. But it's also the strip comic that I really want to do that's a tokusatsu.
You've been talking about that for eons.
I just need an artist. Well, I need to write more, but I'm not going to write more until I have an artist. And
I feel that way myself sometimes.
But I have a mummy that's it's a mummy, but instead of bandages, it's chains. And that feels like the coolest thing fucking ever, and no one's ever done it as far as I'm aware. But now I'm like, is that 90s cool or is that actually cool?
Right, because the 1-2 punch is he's riding a motorcycle.
What is your topic?
Well, I would like to complain about a movie theater going experience. And I thought about doing this as a rant on the channel proper. And I'm going to talk about a couple of people very specifically. And I'm not saying there's any chance that they would watch this, and I don't even know who these people are. But I don't want to complain about really specific people and
if you're watching,
describe them.
Fuck you.
Yeah. I just thought this might sound a little bit crass and mean-spirited. And I apologize in advance for that, except I know people are going to enjoy this. So, my wife and I last night... sorry, I'm immediately laughing at the hilarity of these people. So, my wife and I last night went and saw Annihilation. And we got there before these people did. Not a crowded movie theater. There were maybe 25, 30 people total in the theater. We got really nice seats. Not that they were like gold-plated or something, just that they were central and not too close to the bottom. And they and we only got there like 20 minutes early, and we got, the pick of the house, right? And then this couple comes in and sits up above us to my right. And they're a little loud, and I'm a little bit worried that they might get irritating. And then I immediately stop being concerned with them because of the two people that sit in the same row we're in, about 5-6 seats down from me. Maybe 3 or 4 seats down from me. And I didn't even bother to look over and see what they looked like because they were creepy and rude, and I didn't want to look like I was staring. So I didn't even know what gender they were, what they looked like or anything, and at one point during the film I finally was too curious not to look. It was two very heavy-set women. One of them might have been mentally handicapped, but I don't think she was. I would not make fun of the mentally handicapped. Although, if her mother was obnoxious, I might still make fun of her, despite the fact that her daughter was mentally handicapped. Maybe. Although maybe that's even not fair. Whatever. Don't judge me. These people were irritating, and I'm simply going to explain why. So, they would not stop reacting to things in the absolute most superficial and baseline and obvious way possible. And I know I've talked about this with some other people before, but this is the creme de la creme of the obnoxious person sitting next to you in a movie
theater. The guy in, was it Ragnarok?
Worse than him.
Okay.
By 19 points. I've decided that's the number.
What's the scale? We don't know.
So, the girl's mom was breathing really heavily and sounded like she was coming close to hyperventilating, and I really wanted to move because that made me uncomfortable, all by its lonesome. And then... And again, whatever problem she has, whatever, I don't mean to be judgmental, I don't know these people. I'm simply talking about how irritating the experience was, trying not to pass any judgment, if at all humanly possible. But what was funny about them was the way both of them, like I said, just kept reacting to things, and during... they would just say the obvious, and it was very amusing. So, during the previews... there was a horror movie trailer that played, and I won't even tell you what it was because it's not important. The end of the horror movie trailer, and they kept reacting to the jump scares. Just, and then you get to the end of the trailer, and I don't know which one. One of them says, "That looks scary!" And they were whispering, but it was the really loud kind of whispering where you might as well just be speaking.
That was scary.
At the tone. Yeah.
I can't actually do it now that I'm thinking about it, but I've done that.
Yeah, but they whispered like this. And everyone in the theater could hear them. There were people on like the 5th or 6th row, I guarantee you, they heard these people. My favorite thing.
It's like people that have never actually whispered, they've only seen whispering on television.
Right.
Sometimes I hear people whisper, I'm like, do you only know whispering from TV?
Yeah, do you think that if you're not actually gutturally voicing it, that no one can hear you?
Sometimes I whisper too low.
Believe it or not. Really? What does she say?
I have whispered to the point where I'm not actually making sound, and I don't know that. I'm just like I'm so low no one can hear me.
I guess I need to learn lip reading.
Well, no, because I'm usually whispering in somebody's ear.
Are you aware that air is powerful? Did you know that you can get an air cannon and pull that sucker back and let go and hurt someone's face with it if it's enough air? So yeah, you can whisper really loud. That's also the worst thing for your voice. I don't know if you know that.
I'm sure it is.
But people think that when your voice is messed up, you're supposed to whisper. No, you should voice it. Just not real loud. Anyway, I digress. I don't mean to give medical advice. That's what I've heard. So, let me tell you one thing before I tell you my favorite thing. Because I was about to go to my favorite thing. Here's the thing before that. These people would not stop eating. The whole movie, it was like they brought a grocery bag with them full of food.
Can I interject for a moment?
Sure.
Movie theaters need to go back to just popcorn. Fuck nachos, fuck hot dogs, get this shit. I understand that the popcorn is already inherently loud, but for some reason nachos bothers me more. Like, just get... I've been to ones, and I'm not talking about like the fancy ones. Those are different.
I think
I'm talking about like regular movie
it's
theaters.
ill-conceived to ever say fuck hot dogs.
Sure.
I'm just saying.
Sure. But like I've been to like not like the upscale ones where like, you can order drinks and food and stuff. Not like that, but like...
Because that's also a restaurant.
Yeah.
And that's understandable.
I've been to a normal theater where they have...
Have you ever done that, though?
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I love that.
But I've been to I went to a theater that, just a normal theater, and they had wings. You know what those wings were, by the way? Because I was fucking pissed. They're like Tyson... They're like Tyson wings from, like, fucking Walmart.
No, if
they
were
literally
ducks,
microwaved. Well, I think they put them in the oven, but still. I was like, I could do that.
Yeah.
I don't know what I expected. It's not. What are they going to make wings there?
This is representative of wings.
Yeah.
This is not actually.
But yeah, no. Movie theaters need to go back to just popcorn. Like candy's fine, but like
to that point,
sure.
Or, I suppose, contrary to that point, somehow these people snuck in large amounts of food that did not belong there.
Oh, by the way, you know that our theater now doesn't allow bags after 6 o'clock?
I saw that, and it's the same theater I just went to. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Cinemark.
Yeah.
I saw a sign that was talking about certain dimensions of bags now.
I went in, or when I went to Black Panther the second time with my girlfilriend, she had a bag. She's a rather large bag. I think that was
perhaps a direct reaction to the recent school shooting, but I could be wrong about that. I don't know. That might not be the case, but the timing was interesting.
I'd imagine, but you'd think we would crack down like a couple years ago with the Rises thing. But anyways,
you realize it was 6, right?
Yeah.
You realize that was 6 years ago.
Christ. But it ruined midnight screenings for all of us. We just don't do them anymore. Kind of the mystique is gone. But she has a larger bag, and they're like, it starts today. We're gonna let you go in because you didn't know, but it starts today. I'm like,
yeah.
How long does that last? Like in 2 weeks, when someone who hasn't been to a movie theater in 3 months comes in, they didn't know either.
Go to their car and
yeah. But anyways, yeah.
And by the way, I didn't mean to be dismissive or crass about the school shooting.
No.
Obviously, that was horrendous, and there are things I would say that need to be done, and perhaps we should crack down on things such as that. I don't mind necessarily dimensions for bags.
This is how innocent I am. I was like, they're fine cracking down people sneaking candy in.
Well, that's what I thought. That was my first thought as well.
Okay, so it's not just me.
But anyway, so
they've snuck in a bunch of food.
I'm pretty sure that particular theater does not offer a quarter gallon of chocolate milk. And this girl had this big jug of chocolate milk that she was drinking right out of the jug. And it was just kind of disgusting.
Do you ever think about leaving the theater and complaining?
Yeah, I've had that thought before. I didn't this time. It was more just I wanted to be in some other part of the theater. But I did have that thought where I was like, but can I still hear this woman over here making all this noise? My favorite thing, and then I'll get off this topic, was third act. Again, very loud. Do you understand this movie?
That's what one of them said to the other one?
The mom looks over to the girl and she goes, because it was in, and I won't spoil Annihilation, but it's a weird movie. It's supposed to be weird. It's about things genetically combining and making other things, and these were clearly really superficially thinking people, and they did not know what they were looking at, or at least she didn't. I don't want to speak for the other one. She didn't talk as much. But she goes, do you understand this movie? And then the girl just is like, yeah. And then that was it. And Sarah and I had to try really hard not to laugh. And then about 5 minutes after that, when, again, I don't want to give away anything that happens in that movie. And I recommend that movie. I'll talk about it in the Omnibus next time. But there is a real freaky thing that happens. She goes, and this is the strangest movie I've ever seen. And she might as well have been speaking into an XLR mic. I mean, everybody could hear her in the theater. And I thought that was absolutely raging hysteria.
Okay. So I'm going to tag on 2 real quick stories about theater-going experiences. One of them is, when I went and saw Black Panther the second time, there was somebody who I swear to fucking God had Velcro on his shoes. I'm sure he didn't, but he just
what you can't call those?
Sneakers?
Sneakers.
It was like he just kept, like, moving his foot on the carpet. And it sounded like he had Velcro, like it was just like... so annoying. The other one is, I may have told you a story before, stop me if I have. I'm not sure if I've ever told on camera. Going to see Cars. Did I ever tell you about when I saw Cars?
I think so, but I don't know that the camera has heard this, so go ahead.
When I went and saw Cars in theaters, eons ago at this point, there was and this sticks with me, there was a mom and 2 kids sitting directly behind us. And the mother was narrating the film to her children. And the children did not seem to be having trouble following the film. But she was, like, narrating it to them. And
play-by-play?
Play-by-play. As it was happening, explaining to them what's happening on screen.
Color commentating.
Only once. Everything else is just explaining what is being seen. And then, so you know when Lightning McQueen stops?
Oh, okay, right. That would be different, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So
she's not giving you any commentary.
No.
She's just saying what's happening.
This is what's happening. So, Lightning McQueen stops like right before he wins the race, which by the way is bullshit because he stops like at the line. Just pass it and go back around. But he stops, and she goes, "What? What's he doing? Why is he going back?" And then he gets Doc, and he's like, and she goes, "Oh, he's helping that other car. That's so nice."
I won't name names. I know a couple people who do that.
Sure.
It's very irritating.
Sure.
I think part of it is the lack of acknowledgement that what you're seeing is fictitious. And I can react in such a way... I can react as if something is real in the sense that I'm swept up in it and enamored, and it's as if it's real because I'm invested. But even still... there's a certain amount of acknowledgement of another human being wrote this versus a sporting event or watching someone in front of you being impaled on a spoon. It's different. Right?
It's a big spoon.
I do know someone whose mother had her hand impaled on a spoon
Sure,
once.
sure. Well, you say impaled, and you kind of like did like this one. I assume like through the chest.
Harpoon, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah. And anyway... I have a really hard time not reacting to that. When someone next to me, when I am sitting next to someone I know, and they start reacting to things like that, it's hard for me not to want to try to check them and be like, you do realize this isn't really happening, right? Like, and again, you can gasp because, or laugh, or be, to a certain degree in fear of a character's life that you've come to care about, but that's different than verbally yelling at them, or I've never understood that. I've never understood don't go in that room.
Yeah.
Because you obviously know that they can't hear you, but more than that, it always feels like you're being duped or drinking Kool-Aid or something.
Well, and I don't know about you, but like I've done that. I don't know about the movie theater, but like I've done that where
seems to generally this may sound bad to people. This seems to generally be indicative of lack of critical thinking.
Yeah, well, yes. But I mean, I've done this from time to time. Like I always hate it when I do that. Like, I hate it when I audibly react to a movie. Because I feel, like, dumb. Where I'm like, oh, I hate that. I hate that so much. Like, oh my god, like, I didn't...
To be fair, though, and again, case by case, it can be different. I think that's sometimes a testament to how good the film is.
No, I agree. Because I don't do it for everything. And I assume these people kind of do it
But people who do it for everything.
Yeah.
This is... a side rant, very quickly. I know we've been on this a long time, but we've gone everywhere.
And back again.
It irritates me when people feel the need to read anything written on the screen.
Oh, out loud? Yes.
Hate that.
Yes.
Yeah, I can read!
Yep.
I know what... I read aloud kind of for a living. I know what that says. What is your next topic, Eric Holden?
I want my next topic to be... because I have to eat today.
Do you read your topics in order, or do you jump around?
I jump around.
I do too.
Jump
why do you do that? Is it sometimes
because
I don't make it sound good after the last one? Is it segues?
Sometimes. Sometimes. But it's also I don't put them in like order of like importance. I put them just as I think of them.
As do I.
Yeah.
So you never have an order in your head walking. It's not a set list.
No. Okay, well, I guess I'll go with the dumb people thing.
I'm so excited, by the way. I'm just always excited to hear what your next topic is. There's that moment right before where you have no idea what you're about to be talking about. I'm so excited, like I'm not prepared. I have no idea what the next thing is I'm going to have to weigh in on.
So this is a thing that I've started experiencing recently at my establishment of employment. We have a new system where you have to punch in your phone number on the credit card machine. Before we can scan anything, you have to punch in your phone. You don't have to. There's a skip button. You can either punch in your phone number or you can hit the skip button. And it's eventually we will have like a sales program or something for that. That's not actually my issue. My issue is I forget what that study is. It's the study they bring up from that people will do anything that they're told if they assume the person telling them to do it is in charge. What I have discovered, because there's like a whole spiel about like what that is. What I've discovered that is horrifying to me is if I say nothing at all and I just say it's going to ask you to put your phone number in, they do it. When I give no explanation, almost every person just puts their phone number in.
Wow.
And like this is one of those things where I'm like if you read that they have that whole thing where they talk about the thing where like the people just kept pressing the button to electrocute people. This is a very minuscule version, but I'm like, oh my god, most people will do anything they're told to. It's just like this really horrifying realization where I'm like,
doing with that? The question is it because of the environment they're in?
I don't know. Like if it was a grocery store, do you think? I actually don't think it would be different in a grocery store or a gas station, having worked in both of those establishments.
I guess what I mean is, I'm thinking of all that as a similar environment.
Okay.
Is it different than if I handed them my phone and said, type your phone number in? What I'm saying is, it's a public place, and they're in operation, and most people probably know that that's a chain store, so surely they're not doing anything that's not above board and wrong and doing bad things with my information.
Yeah, but how many people sell people's information to telemarketers?
Precisely,
and things like that?
And how much of that is actually perfectly legal?
Yeah. No. I think people have
borderline. I don't know about all those laws, but I think some of that is legal.
I think terrifyingly people have. Well, we couched all in the agreements. When the agreements, you guess I accept because who's going to read all that? No, it's a terrifying, like, people do whatever they're told to, like, without thinking.
And some of it is a convenience issue.
If they think it's
some of it's convenience. I don't want to have to waste my time learning what this is for. I'm just trying to get out the door. And some people that do that, you might talk to them and they might complain about companies selling information and not having any privacy and such and so on, but they've decided they've already lost. And so they're just not even concerned about it anymore. This is the world I live in. If I've decided to shop in a place like this, I've already sold my soul to some degree.
Sure.
I think there are people who have that mentality, perhaps. But I also think that there are people who do it because they're just, like I said, some people in a hurry, and some people who just, I don't know, don't even think about it.
Yeah, no. I
mean, like you said, where it's kind of just do whatever you're told, but it's kind of I'm here.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. Whatever.
And I know what it was. I was gonna say they don't want to make waves.
Yeah.
They don't want to complain.
Yeah. No.
It's easier to just say.
And the number of people that I've said you can either put your phone number in there, and they start punching their phone number in, and then I say, or you can hit the skip button, and they're like, oh, and they hit the skip button.
Yeah.
They just started doing it because I told them to do it. That's haunting to me. Just like human condition, like that is haunting to me.
I think some of it is, I don't know that it's quite as scary as you think it is with some of those people. There are so many places that make you do that now, they don't remember if the place they're in right now is one where they've done that before.
Oh, are there other places that make you punch in their phone number ahead of time?
Yeah, you work at a place that's right next to one.
Oh.
If anybody's coming from Micro Center, they just did it.
Oh. Okay.
A lot of big electronic stores and places with high-ticket items do it.
That makes sense.
Sure. And I don't mind it at Micro Center. I wish there was a dollar amount
that require that
kind of cutoff that starts it, or type of item. I don't like that I can walk in there and buy a candy bar and they want me to put my number in, but I think that's actually gotten better. I think as your store is starting to do it, they're getting away from it to some degree. Because the last time I was there, they didn't ask me to do that.
Oh, nice.
But I think it might have come up automatically because of... I think maybe they wait... I could be wrong. I think maybe they wait until you put your credit card number in because maybe you come up with that. I'm honestly not sure, though.
What is your next topic?
But anyway, I'm with you. That is scary. I don't mean to downplay that too much. But I think some of it is just people kind of already writing it off and just saying, I guess this is the way the world is.
It's one of those things where it makes me, where I'm like, oh, we haven't changed. We're still just as dumb as we've always been.
I don't know how much of it is people being dumb. Some of it is that.
Or still as easily manipulated and malleable as... Like, one of the most haunting things, I think, is that we have never changed. And the only things that have ever changed are, like, intersocial kind of things, where, like the internet obviously has changed things. The internet is not necessarily applicable to the 1920s, but so many things that you hear people say about, like, how stupid people are and how violent people are and how angry people are and how easily led people are and how easily manipulated, it has never changed. It does not seem. You can find it in the writings of Greece, and you can find it in the writings of the 20s, you can find it in the writings now. It has never changed.
How much of it...
We've never grown as a species.
I see what you're saying. I think that's a little hyperbolic, which is a word I like and use perhaps too often. But I want to suggest that some of it is understandable ignorance. Let's not put ourselves too far above the masses. We are guilty of this as well to some degree. I think it's important to note that if you believe, and you have to because this seems to be the case, you and I both have seen evidence of this, when it seems to be true that the Alexa I have back here and the phone I have here are recording everything I'm saying, how are we any better than those people?
I don't know that.
Shut up, Alexa.
How are we any better than those people?
No, that's fair. Yeah, and then, and on the other side,
we've already given up a degree of our privacy.
How many times have you heard people say things where they're like, well, they're recording on my list, and we're like, yeah, well, you fucking crazy person. We know they're recording us on our phones.
Sure.
Or they at least have algorithms that pick up certain things.
Right. I'm not saying that the government cares what I have to say. Mm-hmm. I'm saying that I might be saying things right now that later on Facebook will try to sell back to me.
Yeah.
There is evidence of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's not conspiratorial. I've heard plenty of compelling evidence about this.
I've not had it with...
And seen myself.
I've not had it with discussion, but I've certainly had it with, like, Google searches. Sure. Like, I'm looking at something and then I go over to Facebook and it's like,
of course.
Oh, were you looking at Bane things?
Yeah. So, I mean, you've already given up a certain amount of your privacy just using certain websites on the internet in the first place. If you never log in, you maybe don't have this problem as much.
Sure.
And so, is it any scarier that you're giving some random company your phone number? Not really. And I would make the argument that once you know that and you've accepted that and you've decided that you're going to give that up in order for the sake of convenience, I'm not saying the majority of people are doing this, or even 10% of them. But the people that have done that, and then they say, well, I've done that, what the hell do I care if this store has my phone number? You can't begrudge them putting their phone numbers in.
No, sure, absolutely. But I don't think most people are thinking
they know what they're doing, but I don't think that's most people. I have a question for you.
Okay.
I want you to be brutally honest with me about this question. This is my next topic.
Okay. We have been drinking a little, so that'll be a lot easier.
Absolutely. That's liquid courage. Eric, do you think that I would potentially be a decent stand-up comedian? It's a thing I've considered trying before, and I've never had the audacity to do it.
Okay, so I think there are two sides to this.
Yeah.
I think personality type, yes. I think the potential is, and I've always thought this if I ever tried to do stand-up comedy, the material could be either too broad or too niche.
Like my novel.
Sure. I think personality type, you very clearly can go on stage and I think you can deliver things in a way that would make people laugh. But I don't know if you could. I think you would write material that's over the people's heads of where you would necessarily go.
That would be my worry, yeah.
Now there are
Could I be accessible? Now
there are plenty of comedians who do really smart humor or really like reference-driven humor, like I don't know if he still does it because as far as I'm concerned he died in 9/11. But Dennis Miller. Dennis Miller went crazy after 9/11. But his 90s stuff is wonderful. 90s Dennis Miller is one of my favorite comedians of all time. But so many of his jokes are, like, within his jokes are a reference to something that's really obscure, and a lot of times it's historical. Like, I'm going to say Caligula, because I think some people would know who Caligula is, but he's like Caligula over here. And, like, but even deeper references than that a lot of times. I don't know how he got his start, Because I wouldn't think that kind of stuff would go over in, like, a nightclub.
Yeah.
So I don't know how he got to that point, and I think you would have that problem of, like, I think you could write material that's very smart that would appeal to people if you already had a base.
Yeah.
But I don't know if, like, improv night is the place for you.
And I would be concerned about trying that.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I've discovered is putting myself out there to the entire universe, I found my niche audience.
Mm-hmm.
But if I go to a convention, I don't find that necessarily. And people react to me very differently when I do something live than when it's a group of, a few people, than the base I've already built on the internet. And we've seen that with trivia shows back when I was doing that, where sometimes it went really well and sometimes it didn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's all about your audience and finding it. I also think
when I had that category about Alien, and I said it's xenomorphin time and nobody laughed, I don't understand that.
Well, most of the
that
people...
seemed like the right audience for that joke.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But I also...
I'm sorry.
I'm very cynical about geekdom and fandom, and like my immediate knee-jerk reaction to like doing a stand-up routine at like a comic convention at this point is like, well, you better make sure they're all fucking Marvel Universe jokes, Marvel Cinematic Universe jokes, because otherwise, no one at the fucking comic book convention is gonna get what you're talking about.
Well, and I'm not saying that if I did stand-up, it would all be geeky.
Yeah. No. But I'm saying if you were at
But I'm saying that I would explain to my audience, and you would tailor it, and and I should say, isn't there a difference between knowing your audience and playing to an audience versus being pandering? Mm-hmm. I mean, those are different things.
Yeah.
You have to know who you're talking to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's self-indulgent.
Yes.
What do you have next, sir?
What do I have next?
Eric is degenerating into an 8-bit video game right before our eyes.
Okay, well, I guess this will kind of jump off that.
Cool. Would you be a good stand-up comic? Well, I don't know, Eric. You might have really good material, but I don't know how you'd be in front of a crowd.
When are pop culture references...
I actually think you'd be better at that than I would, unless you froze.
That's possible.
Because I don't know how you are in front of a big crowd.
I don't know.
I've never seen you on stage.
I've never been on stage. Well, not since I was a kid.
Yeah.
When are pop culture references actual, like, character building traits? And when are they just communication to the audience, usually for comedy? Because I feel like there is a fine line.
Sure, yeah.
And I feel like sometimes, like, I think...
I think part of it is catchphrases and things like that. I think if we lean on it too much and there's not any other substance, that's when you can kind of see the seams of that.
I think both Guardians movies fall into this, where everything Peter Quill says, for the most part, I think some of his references are a little too specific for how long it's been since he was on Earth. But for the most part, everything he says makes perfect sense. But
you complained about Pac-Man.
Sometimes other people also make references, or I'm like, no, fuck you. No, I don't buy it.
And to be fair, I think this is an understandably difficult line to walk.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, Joss Whedon, every character in Buffy speaks in some way in pop culture speak. Which is one of those things where I think people talked like that, and then Buffy came out and people talked like that more.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I'm with you, but I mean even more specifically than that. I mean that when you give Peter Quill a bunch of 80s references because that's what he remembered growing up as a kid, there's a fine line between giving him character-specific things that he latched onto
and making it just 80s references.
And making it... Right, but what I'm saying is, I'm trying to figure out how to articulate this. How do you make sure that it makes sense for his character and doesn't just feel like a pandering thing that's everything everybody knows 80s, but is accessible enough that the majority of people will know what he's talking about?
Well, and that's something...
difficult. And so they go to Pac-Man because people know what that is. But some of the music references were deeper than that.
That reminded
If I had been then, I just had this thought. Disney movie, I would have gone to Tron.
Yeah, obviously.
Because it looks more off the beaten path, but is still a popular thing everybody's heard of. Most people have heard of.
So I wrote this down like a week ago.
Yeah.
And what you just said reminded me of what my actual point was when I wrote it down.
Cool.
Which is...
And back to center.
Yeah, no, because I realize now what I actually meant when I wrote that down.
Yeah.
Which was... We want our characters to be pop culture savvy, but we do not want them to have specific pop culture savvy. What I mean is, when you watch a television show or movie set in the 80s, they are going to mention everything you've ever heard of.
Yeah.
They're going to mention Ghostbusters. They're never going to... Or they usually don't have things that are very specific to them. It's this idea that we all had the same childhood. Fuck you. See, some of these like kids or stuff, like they're gonna gravitate towards like I don't know, like fucking Hawk the Slayer, like I don't know, something more obscure. Do you hear that?
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on in there.
We're haunted. Every Star Wars isn't Star Wars for every kid, right? Like, and I feel like that's how we write, is like, it's like, you all know this. I'm like, okay, but then you're not writing a character that has lived and breathed their own experiences. You're writing, I love Back to the Future, and I love Ghostbusters, and I love...
Here's the thing. I think really specific references that don't feel like...
But then they can alien the audience. Sorry.
Right. That's the point I was going to make, is that... So I don't need to talk now. No.
Sorry.
I think the issue is... It's easier to do really specific references that don't look like they're trying to appeal to everyone when it's fictitious. When it's something that we made up for that world. Mm-hmm. So this person is a big fan of this thing that you've never heard of because nobody's heard of it because it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. But in this world, it's popular. That's much, much easier. Keep in mind that there is, in a lot of writing circles, a rule for this. When I was in writing school, mm-hmm. I had professors that would give you a laundry list of, in particular categories, things that you can reference and things that you can't. They don't want you to go to really ultra-specific things because they're afraid that, as you say, you're going to alienate the reader. And I think that can be a problem. That's the line between giving a character a really specific trait, making it unique to them, and being self-indulgent and looking like you're not writing for anybody but yourself. I think that's very difficult.
And this is why everyone in Star Trek reads Shakespeare.
Right.
We all know Shakespeare.
We all know what that is, yeah.
No one on the Enterprise...
But it makes you look intellectual.
No one on the Enterprise was influenced by, like, the novels of the 70s.
Every now and again a thing like that will come up, but it will usually be in passing. Mm-hmm. I think, if I may...
There is that great joke in fucking 4 that we had to look up. When they're talking about the giants,
yeah.
And we're like, who the hell is that? Oh, they wrote fucking the dolls one. The dolls.
And what was it? Jacqueline something.
Yeah,
I forget.
Yeah.
Now. But anyway, if I may, I think you get really excited when you pick up on a thing that you know most of the people in an audience aren't going to pick up on, mm-hmm. and you do sometimes get excited when you see when you see people taking that kind of risk, and then you look it up later and you don't know it in the first place. But I understand the irritation of, we're just trying to be accessible. We're just trying to. The problem is when we try to appeal to everyone in such a way where we're pretending like we're aiming at a niche, but we hit everybody. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what pisses you off.
I think it does. Because the people eat it up. Like, they're appealing to me! I played Pac-Man! And I'm like, fuck you, man, we all fucking did.
Ignorant, yeah.
My feelings on the Guardians
movies... You don't like it when
movies,
people don't acknowledge reality.
Yeah.
That's your...
My feelings on the Guardians movies are heightened so much by perception from people around them. Like, where I constantly see people in their 40s being like, oh, you know what's great about those movies? They're really speaking to me and my... I'm like, so is everything fucking else being made right now. What's your fucking point?
Yeah.
I would be way more impressed if it was, like, fucking 40s music or something, like, you know what I mean? Like, where it's like,
some of
that's not appealing to...
But I would encourage you to also look outside yourself a little bit and put yourself in some people's shoes. This is not some of these people's whole life like it is ours to some degree, and some of those people legitimately do not realize that. It's difficult to get that because of the circles we run in.
It feels like it's like a lot of Rick and Morty, Stranger Things,
Right.
Garden's Guide, like it's all just being sold to you. Like I don't.
It too is right,
especially Guardians 1, I guess, is a little bit before all this hit.
But if you go to a movie theater, you don't know how often the people that are reacting that way go to movies.
No, sure.
You don't know what their nostalgia is and how long it's been since they've had a trip. And I think some people, at the same time, are in denial about this, and it's more comfortable to imagine that the niche is smaller than it is, because they can keep meeting people finally that they think are like them, that they weren't able to meet before, and feel like they're special.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. I think I did a video on this a long time ago on my channel about that, like, every time a TV show wants to be, like, geeky, it's Batman, Superman, Star Wars, maybe Star Trek.
Sure.
And there's nothing, like, when Kevin Smith was doing Star Trek references in his films, it was like in this weird period.
But that's understandable to some degree, because because at that time, if you're talking like 10, even 8 years ago, at the time, if you go too far out of that, you lose people, and then what's the point of the references?
That you're actually writing for the audience you're pretending to write for. That's my issue with it. Is they act like they're doing it to appeal to me.
Because that audience, some of the point of it might be that smaller audience, and some of it might be it's actually for a more broader, accessible audience, but they just throw those references in because they like them. Again, fine line, hard to tell.
Well, I mean that's one of my biggest issues with Big Bang Theory is I'm like, fuck you. You're not actually for me. Stop pretending you are.
Right.
Stop acting like you're for geeks. You're not.
Yeah,
you are for people that grew up with Star Wars. Like, and that's it. They didn't read the books. They didn't. They were there for Star Wars, and I don't have time for that because.
What's complicated about that show, with what little I've seen of it, and I haven't spoken on this much because I know it's popular and I don't care for it generally, but the few times I've seen it, there have usually been an average of 2 jokes that I don't think the majority of the audience would actually get, and I appreciate it for that. But you're right, it kind of acts like it's clearly a least common denominator thing and pretends like it's not that. Here's the thing. I'm not for elitism. I'm not for exclusionism. I just don't want you to pretend like you're something other than you are, and I don't want you to insult my intelligence. That's all I'm ever asking for. I've told you about my favorite joke from that show. My favorite joke from that show is, from what little I've seen of it, I could probably count the number of episodes I've seen on both hands, maybe one hand. But there's an episode where they go to the comic shop and the girls are trying to buy a comic for one of the guys for some reason to surprise them for a present. I forget what it is. And they're clueless and they don't know anything about comic books. And they walk into the comic book store, and already this sounds stereotypical, but they walk into a comic store and it is stereotypical because in this scene where I like this joke a lot, they're pretending like girls never go to that store, and this is not far enough ago that that's really true anymore. And so I find that irritating, being a person that frequents comic book shops. Well, and if I may, I see plenty of hot chicks at comic shops now.
Because The Big Bang Theory is a show for the 90s.
Yeah.
Playing off of 90s stereotypes.
We also, in popular entertainment, are often about a decade behind.
That's true.
Maybe 7-8 years. But anyway, they had this joke that I feel like you would only write if you knew anything about comic shops, maybe, or maybe it was just the delivery. I don't know. But the comic shop owner, she says, "What can you tell us about comics?" Just a real vague blanket statement question, and he responds with, "I can tell you, if you want to make a living, don't open a store and try to sell them." And I thought that was very funny.
Yeah. No,
that's a good joke.
Yeah, it's a good joke. I think someone in your documentary literally said that.
Yeah, I mean, that's, sure. Or maybe that's one of those transcending things where you don't have to be in comics, you don't have to be in fandom to know that that's not a big selling item, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is it my turn?
It is your turn.
I feel as though it is my turn. Eric, what types of items are you personally only interested in buying at brick and mortar stores versus ordering online? Do you have things that you don't like to go on the internet to purchase?
Aside from like food items?
Yeah. Just curious. Because I'm more of a shopper than you are, I feel like. And so I have this with quite a few things where it's sometimes, and I'm a collector and you're not, to some degree. But there are things that are more, at the very least, more fun for me to go out and search for as opposed to get on the internet and buy. But I'm just wondering if you have anything like that, where like you would prefer to go out and find it.
I mean, I love a bookstore. I can spend hours in half-price books.
Yeah.
Finding things, and like I enjoy the experience, but I don't know if there's anything.
There's actually more discovery there.
Yeah.
Than there is maybe browsing on the internet.
Yeah.
I find I don't. Do you have this when it comes to things like books and comics, print media? I don't discover a lot on the internet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can go find exactly what I'm looking for.
Unless it's people talking, like listening to podcasts, something like that. Like I discover things that way.
Or occasional cross-reference.
Every once in a while, Amazon like you might also like this. There's a book that I want to get because
or like wikis and things.
Yeah,
there's a cross-reference.
Yeah,
really. Oh, I didn't know this existed.
There's a book that I want to get at some point because I was looking at they have a complete collection for the first 16 issues of Tomb of Dracula that I still have to get. And it was like if you like that, you might also like this. There was a comic book called Night Force, which is also written by Marv Wolfman, but in the 80s at DC, and it was him. Like, at the height of Marv Wolfman. Like, when he's writing Teen Titans, he just wrote fucking Infinite Crisis.
This really generic-sounding title?
Yeah.
I mean, when I hear a title like Night Force, I want Night to be spelled with a KN, and I want Force to be spelled with a PH.
And then apparently he was just like, can I do a horror comic? Like, I like doing horror comic. And so we did this thing, and it got canceled after, 12 issues, but there's a hardcover of it, and I'm like, well, I need that. I need to read that and see what that's like.
It's probably out of print, like $40, and...
I know it's still in print right now. I can get it.
Is it really?
It's at the mall at the Barnes and Noble.
Wow.
Yeah. No. They put it out there.
Published that?
DC.
Oh, okay.
This is DC Comics.
Maybe you said that and I missed it.
But
it sounded like the most generic thing in the world.
It sounds like it could be interesting. The title's bad. But no. For me, shopping is all about price. This is where I'm kind of an asshole. Don't give a shit about comic shops because you cannot give me those prices that Amazon gives me.
Right.
I will not buy a $35 trade that I get for $20.
You're a trade person, and comic shops, their bread and butter are singles.
But I also wouldn't buy singles because I can get them cheaper on online websites like DCBS and things like that, where it's a steeper discount.
Except for the things you can.
Okay.
The issue with buying singles that way is it's occasional. But there are enough things that have lower print runs or that will get optioned for films, etc., that you will not be able to buy that way later, and you don't care because if that happens, you'll just wait for trade.
Absolutely.
I, however, cannot do that.
Absolutely. Well, you asked me about my personal...
Oh, no, absolutely, sure.
Personal preferences.
I'm just saying there are reasons that people shop at comic shops.
No. I'm talking about me personally. As a trade buyer, there was nothing that a comic shop can offer me. There's nothing that Barnes & Noble can offer me either.
Yeah.
I kind of hate going to both of those locations because... I want to buy. It's immediately like I'm like, and I like this. I want this. I want
price.
I'm not going to
especially don't want to feel full price when it's not a matter of waiting.
Yeah.
When you know, well, I could go home right now, order it, get it in 48 hours. Why would I pay more?
Yeah. So I don't know if there's anything. If there is, it might be something.
Maybe this was not the most interesting of questions.
It might be something that's slightly more like collectible, like Pops or something, where like it's real sketchy about whether you can get some of that stuff on Amazon for like a reasonable price or not.
Do you ever
Amazon's inventory does not seem to represent the rest of the world's inventory.
Do you ever question buying certain kinds of media because you don't know if you'll have to send it back? Because you don't buy video games. I've had this with games before, where I'm like, with certain systems, I don't know in games that are, especially if they're rarer. I don't know if I wouldn't buy those online.
I wouldn't buy those online.
Yeah.
Unless there's like a bunch of pictures.
Can be a little dicey.
Yeah.
But they almost never show you the back of the disc and in a light where you can tell if it had scratches. You're still not going to know.
And there's, I guess there's a couple of things.
Cartridges are dicey anyway.
Yeah.
You buy I don't mind doing that online because I don't know any more on eBay than I'm going to know in a store that doesn't have a system set up where I can test it.
Well, it would at least be easier to return.
True.
No, I guess there's a couple of things where I'm like, I'm wary about buying used online.
Yeah.
I would not buy a used board game online.
Again, unless it's got plenty of pictures. I mean, I have done that once or twice.
Yeah. I would want to buy a new one.
There's still a board game I really want to get and show you, and wish I had not sold when I sold it. I've told you about that. The Star Wars VCR board game.
Yeah, which you told me to get you for your birthday, but I already bought you something, and we had it in my store, and then we sold it.
I wish I had just broken down and gotten it, and it was complete, and it looked really good, but I can get it on eBay for about that price, and I can get it sealed.
Yeah.
But at some point I will buy that, and we will play it on camera, although we'll get copyright flagged. But I'd like to show you that at some point. It's weirdly intricate. What is your next topic? Maybe last topic. Looks like we have, according to this, 2 minutes.
Do I have something fast? Sure. I'll do one that's kind of fast.
Yeah, sure.
So this is going to be a very specific reference for a very broad question. And I guess it's about trade buying versus issue buying. Is it insane?
Not the worst segue.
Is it in? All of mine have been pretty good. I feel like I'm good at that.
You are.
We're like I've got a couple. I'm like well, I'll pick this one because it dovetails off that.
You had one that degenerated or morphed into. I'll use the more positive thing. Morphed into precisely one of my topics, so I didn't even bring that up because we basically covered it.
Well, what topic was it?
I'll read it verbatim. It was a thing we talked about earlier when we were out. It says people being ignorant about how popular niche things are, or used to be, is irritating. Yeah, we basically did that.
Yeah.
I didn't even segue into it. We basically did that.
It's a thing that's on my mind now. Given,
yeah,
I often wonder how much more.
We had an interesting conversation about T-shirts at the bar, but I feel like somehow or rather, we've done a lot of T-shirt discussions on this show. So
yeah, stop saying people's shirts are cool if it's something popular. You look like an asshole. Oh, you got Rick and Morty shirt. That show everyone loves. You're so cool. Fuck you. Anyways.
There's certain things we pretend like 5 people on the planet like it when we have to know it's popular.
Yeah, it's a lot of times it does seem to be like age based, where it's like.
Can I suggest even at the height of its popularity, I could wear Space Ghost and it was cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it was never Rick and Morty popular.
No, but it's like Back to the Future, where like we act like, well, that came out a long time ago. Kids today probably don't know about Back to the Future.
Isn't that the same thing to some degree as the complaint you have about parents that pretend like
their kids are super cool?
Their kids are the only kids who like playing Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, what were you going to talk about?
What was I going to talk about? Oh, okay. Is it insane to buy multiple trades for the same thing if they're in a different order? Okay, so I'm going to explain to you what gave me this thought, because I
in a different order. I guess I can't immediately picture.
All right, so I have the beautiful hardcover library editions.
Buying them out of order?
No, I mean they're presented in book in a different order
than when they were originally published.
Than they are in other trades. Okay, so I have downstairs. I have the hardcover collections, the beautiful library edition collections of the Hellboy series.
Yeah.
Which roughly collects Hellboy how the trades collect it. There's a little bit of moving around because they want volumes that are just short stories to be just short stories. So if volume 1 and 2 are big stories, and volume 1 is those, so it's like 2 stories. And then volume 3 and 5 are short stories, they will do 3 and 5 as volume 2, and then 4 and 6 are larger stories, so they'll do 4 and 6 as a trade. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like they want a singular volume to just be short stories. They don't want half short stories, half like a 6-issue story.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So those are collected roughly how they were collected in trade, which is roughly how they were published. Not always, because some of the short story collections, it's like, well, I did this in 2001, I did this in 2008, but there just weren't enough short stories until that point to collect it into a volume. But it's roughly how they were published. they started putting out Hellboy omnibuses that reorder Hellboy by date. So, like, all of the Hellboy short stories are not in order. They are, this one's 1978, this one's 1942, this one's 19... All Hellboy short stories take place...
So they're linear.
Yes.
That's
it
interesting.
Reorganized... Am I a crazy person if I buy those omnibuses to have a different reading experience, other than having to pull down volumes in an insane order to try and read them in the correct order?
That is not the craziest thing I've heard before. Now, do they collect anything that's not been collected before?
I don't think so.
Okay. I don't know. I would not buy those if I already had them in some other way, unless they were on sale.
Mm-hmm.
But I will speak to... I know exactly the mentality that leads you to wanting to do that. I share this, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot sympathize more. I have had experiences reading something in even different formats, and it feel different even though what I'm looking at is the exact same material. Origin, Wolverine, does not read the same on anything but glossy to the way I originally read it.
Mm-hmm.
That really pretty hardcover, it just doesn't feel like the same book to me if I look at it in singles. I don't like it in singles.
Mm-hmm.
I've had this with things. If I owned Origin in singles, had first printings, they were worth $6, $10, $15 a piece, whatever they're worth, I would still buy that book in hardcover.
Because you would have it for the collection and to read.
Right, and it wouldn't be, well, I can't ever touch those because they're worth money. It would just be, I don't like to read it that way. I love my Infinity Gauntlet hardcover. The first way I read that was in singles. It feels different.
Mm.
And some of that's just, the first way you ever read it. I know this is not the exact same experience, but I think what you're talking about is even almost more understandable than that, because I can see why that would be such a different experience. You're looking at it differently. I, at one point, considered doing an edit, and I'm sure someone has done this now, of all of the flashbacks to pre-20th century stuff in Angel and putting them together as one movie or a TV episode or something. And if you did that, it would color or change your experience with that material, because it's now a different artifact.
Well, and part of it, I think, is also...
I would absolutely, if I was really into that stuff, I would absolutely consider buying it that way.
Well,
even if I had it already.
And also, I think it's well, first of all, it's going to read or watch straight through, as opposed to having to stop and then go find the, especially the TV show that would be insane. You wouldn't even think about reading it that way. Mm-hmm.
The fact that they published it made you want to read it that way. They almost deserve your money for that.
Sure. And there is a reading order online. Vince has started reading through Hellboy this way.
Interesting.
But I think he's trade jumping. That seems like a lot of work to me. Like, I would much rather just read through all of it.
It would be easier if you had it in singles.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you could just organize it that way in the first place.
Well, but even that, with Hellboy specifically, you can't do that. Because so many of those stories are, like, in Dark Horse Presents and in Dark Horse's Book of Monsters. Like,
I see.
They're all... Like, you can't just... If you collect Hellboy in singles, you cannot collect just books with Hellboy on the title. Because so much of that stuff is in other things.
I forgot all about that.
But
it's like Judge Dredd.
Yeah. If I owned Clone Wars, I think I would rebuy the CGI animated series. I think I would rebuy Clone Wars if they finally put it out in the fucking order it's meant to be watched in.
Yeah, sure.
That's one of the great things about being on Netflix is it's much easier to watch. You don't have to discs flip. It was also what was great about X-Men being on Hulu.
That was the next place I was going to go. If they reprinted those DVDs in the correct viewing order, you would consider buying them again if you couldn't watch it any other way?
Yeah.
I have this with Star Trek. If it were true that you could only watch that show, forgetting that you can stream it, but it doesn't stream in the right order either. If you could only watch that show in aired order versus the way it was originally made, I would consider owning it both ways. Maybe. And yeah, maybe that does sound crazy. I mean, you could just get a list out and watch it in the correct order.
But then you're talking about disc switching. Like you're going to watch an episode, take a disc out, put it, go like, 3 discs later, put that disc and watch an episode from that.
And inevitably you're going to mess it up.
Yeah.
You're going to have a place where you're going to screw up and
just do it for me, man.
No.
I'm lazy.
No, I'm totally with you. I can totally see why you want to do that. And
you're
also,
at the very least the same kind of crazy as me.
Sure, but I don't even know if it's crazy. I can see having it both ways because you might like looking at it both ways for different reasons.
Yeah, because at least in the Hellboy thing, it is very much, it's going to be a different experience.
Right.
To read through Hellboy, and just to get to see, does it all track? Because I don't think the years are random, but I don't think, at least early on, he was putting that much thought into what falls when and where. I really want to know, if you read it in order, is there an arc of Hellboy across all of these short stories? That's fascinating.
How is he changing and growing? You're not going to get that watching them jumping around in time the way they do, the way they were published.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm not going to buy them tomorrow because I do have those
almost like checking the man's work.
Yeah, it's almost daring to check the man's work
because he didn't write them that way.
Yeah. There's a fan cut somewhere of all of the Marvel Universe movies in chronological order, scene by scene.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So, it starts at, the dawn of time in Thor 2, and then goes
Iron Man 2 and Incredible Hulk really weird.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that.
Because some of that's happening simultaneously.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that.
I'm not sure how they did that.
But there is that puts all of the flashback scenes in chronological.
They're going to have a massive headache when it comes to Spider-Man Homecoming. Because
it doesn't make sense.
Because it doesn't make sense.
Yep.
What do you do?
Yeah.
And then when you say cinematic universe, are they just talking about movies? Or are they
I
talking
believe
about
it's just
everything
movies.
in that
I believe it's just movies.
Because that would blow your brains out.
Yep.
Because then, some of it you just couldn't know. There's a big question mark with Netflix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I believe it's just the films.
But if you did put all that together, it would be kind of fun because you'd have a whole bunch of Agent Carter before anything. And
there's also a reading order for Marvel Comics.
Before some things, I know
that if I was a crazy person,
an
infinitely wealthy person, and had infinite time on my hands.
But then it would be really funny. Sorry, because that opening scene in Iron Man 3 would go in such a random place, and that would be really funny.
That's true. We feel like such a setup and payoff, right? You've got 4 movies in between.
Why am I waiting this long to find out what happens with this nerdy Killian guy?
But there is a reading order of how to read the Marvel Universe in order,
and I
not chronologically, but
immediately, I'm Blue Dabba Dee Dabba Da follows.
It would be Ant-Man. It would be the flashback in Ant-Man, right?
That's pretty cool, actually.
So it'd be the flashback in Ant-Man where she almost dies. Oh, no, because it's flashback in Ant-Man where she dies, and then the opening scene of Ant-Man where he comes in and is like, I'm not working for you guys anymore. I think. And then it would be...
skip to 1999?
I don't think there's anything in between right now. Obviously, there's a whole movie that's going to take place in between now, but right now... No, you know what happens in between? Oh my god. Do you know what happens in between?
What is it?
Tony's parents get murdered.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It would be Tony's parents get murdered, then Tony...
That's hilarious.
That's fantastic.
Now I want to watch this guy's edit.
Yeah, me too. I've always wanted to watch...
It's a cool idea.
I don't watch any fan edits, but I've always meant to watch, the Phantom edit and things like that, where, people I made this movie better.
I've watched
Sometimes I'm interested. I feel like most of the time they're amateur jobs.
I've watched exactly one.
How was it?
That somebody sent me once. I watched... Pretty good. So, thanks a lot for watching, folks. No, I watched the better version of Batman and Robin that...
Oh, I've heard of this.
That cuts out all the punny stuff and everything, and it's an hour and 10 minutes long. Maybe it's shorter than that. It was alright. It wasn't an amateur job. I mean, it was well edited.
That's good.
But I enjoyed it. Yeah, I wanted to watch one of those things. Have you had what I've had with the Marvel movies, and I feel like such an idiot when I have this? I guess it is a little bit different than what we did, because we had the X-Men movies in the middle and stuff, but every now and again I have this thought where I'm like, it would be really fun to sit down and watch all those movies together. And I'm like, but we've done this.
I had it when the trailer for Infinity War came out, because when Age of Ultron came out, I watched all the movies leading up to Age of Ultron. I was like, oh yeah, maybe I want to go through and watch. But at this point, there are now Marvel movies I wouldn't want to go back to. And I didn't have that before. I will not rewatch Thor Ragnarok. I will not. I wouldn't be excited to go back to Doctor Strange again,
One, you don't want to sit through Dark World again.
I don't want to sit through Dark World. I don't want to sit through any of the Thors.
I mean, the first Thor I can watch.
I mean,
it's fine.
But I'm not excited like I was before Avengers came out.
Sure, but you're not repelled by it, and honestly, I didn't like Ragnarok. I'm not repelled by it the way I am Dark World. It's so boring. Like, Ragnarok's not what I want.
They're half of one, 6 dozen of another for me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a good movie.
Because to me, Ragnarok is Dark World with out-of-place comedy. Like, I feel like it's the same level of film, but shoving comedy in my face, which makes it more offensive to me. I don't know if I can actually say it's the worst Marvel movie. It's
insulting in a different way, isn't it?
It either goes Ragnarok, Dark World, or Dark World, Ragnarok.
I don't even know if Dark World is insulting. I think it's just
dull.
It feels like nobody wanted to be there. Yeah, it's just really dull.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, thanks a lot for watching, folks. We sure appreciate it. We'll see you again in 2 weeks. I think we'll take this opportunity, however, to announce a plan Eric and I have. We are going to, and we'll see how this goes. I don't like to promise things too much in case things don't work out and we decide we don't have time or we don't like it, but we're going to tell you what we're planning on doing, and we can promise at least one. Eric and I are going to add a new Patreon exclusive thing that we're going to be shooting around the same time as we do this show. We're going to start doing video game playthroughs specifically for Patreon. I've done those before. It's been a long time since I've done them regularly. And Eric and I were noodling around, and we were like, what might be more fun things to do just for Patreon? And we felt like this wasn't too far outside of the rules of what we do for Patreon, because
these will not be reviews.
They're not reviews.
Playing games together.
It's just us messing around playing video games, and they'll be uncut, they'll be uncensored, just like these shows are, so we can say whatever we want to. And we can't guarantee that they'll always be the most entertaining things in the world. We'll make them as fun as we can. I mean, we'll have a really good time. But if we get stuck, we're not going to cut anything. We're just going to play and go. Our plan right now is to do, for the channel, the Telltale Batman game again, and actually film it this time, and post it to the channel, and then use that to encourage people to come check out Patreon and see what we're doing with the video game playthroughs, which we're going to do once a month. And I don't know what the first thing we'll do after that is yet. We've not settled on anything, but we're going to try some different things.
That is how you will see us play Telltale Batman 2 when we play that game.
Yeah, right. We're going to do that one playthrough on the channel, and then encourage people to come here. Now, we're also going to use that, of course, experiencing a game, and then we'll actually review the game on the Omnibus. So, again, no reviews just on Patreon. So people will still get to hear us talk about that.
Yeah.
About whatever it is that we're doing. But we're also not going to promise we'll play through an entire game.
No. A lot of it will be sampling. Things like that.
But, honestly, the video game sampler I've done some of on my own. There's not a whole lot of interest in that. We'll try to pick things that people really want to see us play, but we're not a video game channel, so this is a fun extra thing that I think, honestly, more people that want to help us out and support us might care about than people that are just casually watching the channel. I think it was Eric's idea, so if this doesn't work out, he's the guy to blame, but I think
which is
this is a
really
really
good video
idea.
game guy. This is the second video game thing I've pitched.
Yes, that's really funny, but I think you and I have a lot of fun when we play video games.
Yeah.
We haven't done it a whole lot, but it's a lot of fun. I think I'm going to accidentally turn you into a video game guy. I think that's what's going to happen.
I don't think so. Because when I'm alone, I don't play video games.
Okay, but I can turn you into a person that wants to invite other people to play video games.
I love party games. I love playing with other people.
Sure.
I'm just not a gamer.
Yeah.
I've told you before, I will at any point play Mario Party. If anyone asks me, it could be some hobos in an alley, I'll be like, yeah, sure, I'm down for that. I love Mario Party. I love Mario Party so much.
I don't understand that.
It's just fun.
I don't dislike Mario Party, but I get bored with it real fast.
I like playing with people. Well, it's the exact right number of turns.
Oh, okay.
Too many or too little never is...
And the wrong game with the wrong mini-games spells disaster.
Sure.
For me, if I'm going to play a game that's multiplayer, I'd much rather play something like Mario Kart or something.
Sure. I like it. But I also I think I like board games a little bit more than you do.
Yeah.
So.
That's probably true. I think some of that was just like a family thing where some people, again, I won't name names, we're not the most fun people to play board games with, but I don't want to air out my own dirty laundry on camera. Once again,
I'll air out my own dirty laundry. Did you know my mom made my sister cry once playing a board game, playing Monopoly?
Really?
Yeah. So my mom hates Monopoly, like with an undying passion. Thinks it's boring. Of course, we played with free parking.
Yeah.
But we were.
You know how I feel about Monopoly.
We were playing Star Wars Monopoly, and my mom just wanted the game down.
You may not know how I feel about Monopoly, but Eric.
And whenever my this is Kelsey.
I love Monopoly, and I'm still trying to get people to like actually sit down and play a full game and prove to them that this can be done without getting bored. But I've not proven that with anyone yet. It's unfortunate.
This is Kelsey, who's my.
I've got to show you. I'm going to do that on He Made Me Watch at some point. I've got to show you
the Monopoly documentary.
Yeah.
So it's the next. It's my next sibling now. It's Kelsey. So she's like maybe 8 at this point, maybe even younger.
I've known your siblings for a couple of years. I cannot imagine her younger.
Yeah, I can.
Well, no, of course, yeah. I can't even imagine that.
So she's much younger here, and whenever she'd look away, my mom, it was the Star Wars Episode 1 Monopoly. So the hotels were the big towers, like on Coruscant, and she just started.
Cool because at that point they weren't doing a lot of hotels and houses that were different things.
Yeah, so she would just put them on her places, and Kelsey kept hitting them and got so upset because she had no money. She started crying. So yes, once my mom made my sister cry.
Yeah, the point of playing Monopoly with little children is that life is rarely fair.
That's the point of Monopoly.
Yeah.
I don't think people know that, but that is the point of Monopoly.
Well, yeah, I mean, the original point of Monopoly was to criticize the capitalistic system.
It's biting satire.
It is.
Now there's Catopoly.
And it's really interesting because there are people who play that game and think of it as embracing and celebrating the capitalistic system.
But
it's interesting. I guess just by virtue of the fact that it is a money game, like they know,
and you
that
want money.
Yeah, well,
which I guess is still part of that, right?
And you want to defeat everyone.
Yeah.
You want to take over, and you want to leave them broken, homeless. And that's fun when you're playing a game. But I don't, and regardless of what your feelings are of the capitalistic system that we have, I don't know how you play that game and
walk away going, yeah, this is good. This is how we should run the world.
That's not what I mean. I just, that's why I said no matter how you feel about that system.
Well, I'm just saying the game itself.
I don't know how you play that game and walk away thinking that it's anything but a criticism of that system, or maybe you don't think that it's one thing or another, but to think, look, this game is celebrating. You have to be in a critical mindset to come to either conclusion. The theme of it is clearly money, but to think it's criticizing it or it's celebrating it, how do you play that game whether you win or lose? And think it's positive before it's negative on that. I don't understand that. And yet, the first time I heard that was the point of it, I never thought of it before.
Because I hadn't either.
I was not critically analyzing Monopoly.
No, I always just thought that
it seemed like a concept for a game.
Yeah.
Like if I made a game, and I have before, and I wish I still had it because I want to show it to you because I think you'd enjoy it a lot. I made a card game, obviously, that I can't sell, but I made a card game once based on eBay. Ever tell you about my eBay game?
Yeah, you've read some.
I've got it on a hard drive someplace. I'm going to try to print it again. It's because I lost my set. You could easily look at that and think that it's
just the eBay
criticism of that system, or something, but like it just seemed like a good model for a game. I wasn't trying to make some statement about it.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of art. Have you ever heard Tolkien talk about it's not metaphor. I guess it is metaphor, but it's
the fact that he did not intend Lord of the Rings to be a biblical anything.
It's not just biblical. It's also not allegory. He is insanely against allegory and thinks it's obnoxious to read allegory into things when it's not intended by the author. And he explicitly states because
I fall more in the middle on that.
Because a lot of people think or at the time, a lot of people thought Lord of the Rings was an allegory for World War II. And he's like, it's not an allegory for World War II, and here's all the reasons it can't be, you simple-minded fools. except for the very ending bit when they go back home and Saruman's taken over the Shire, because that was an allegory to when he went back to his childhood home and it was all like factories and things. But that's not in the movie or the animated film, so it doesn't really matter.
It's sticky. You would call that inspiration before it's allegory.
Sure.
With all due respect to Tolkien, and who am I to argue with him?
Well, I mean, having read something you've written, a better writer.
But I mean, like, I have a lot of respect for Tolkien.
As a linguist, and as an imaginator,
world builder.
Sure.
Yeah. But the issue with that line of reasoning in my mind is you discount the subconscious.
Sure. Well, he does completely. And I'm not saying I agree.
When he says what's intended, I say, okay, consciously or subconsciously.
I agree.
But anyway, well, I feel like we wrapped this video up 10 minutes before we wrap this video up, but thanks a bunch once again for watching, and there's a couple of extra conversations for you. We'll see you again in a couple weeks, and in the meantime, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
See you next time.